Most of us with migraine know about all the self-care practices we should be doing to prevent and manage migraine. You've probably heard of consistent sleep routines, physical activity, regular eating, stress relief practices. It sounds reasonable, but why is it so hard to do these things consistently? It's because, friends, we have migraine, and migraine unpredictably interrupts our best laid plans for consistency and self-care. And it can often feel like with migraine and doing positive things for ourselves, we're taking one step forward and two steps back. But today I'm going to teach you how to stop spinning your wheels when it comes to migraine self-care so that you can manage migraine with less medication and do things that help you feel good. Hey everyone, my name is Adrienne Delorco. I'm the creator of Yoga for Migraine. I teach yoga for migraine practices along with wellness coaching in my coaching program Beyond Migraine. And so I'm going to show you how I help my clients create and stick with self-care habits that really make a dent in your migraine symptoms and help lead you to the path on migraine recovery. Big shout out to our sponsor, Cephaly. Cephaly is an exclusive sponsor of our Yoga for Migraine Wellness Wednesday classes every Wednesday here at 2 p.m. Eastern in the Yoga for Migraine Facebook group. I have been an original Cephaly user since 2015. Every single morning I put on my Cephaly device. It has a preventative setting and an abortive rescue setting when you have a migraine attack. Best of all, it is effective and non-pharmacological, so you do not need to take medication to get relief. And I have a code, Yoga Migraine, where you can use this code and save 15%. I'll drop it into our comments right now. And if you have questions about Cephaly, reach out because I love their product. It has helped me more than any other migraine preventative. So here we go. Today I'm going to tell you how you can determine which self-care habits to prioritize first, how to make new self-care habits so easy you can't fail, how many new self-care habits you should add at a time, what to do when migraine inevitably messes up your routines, and how to overcome some of the mindset patterns like self-criticism or all or nothing thinking that can sabotage our efforts for taking care of ourselves. So first off, let's talk about why self-care and what it even means. Self-care can have, for some people, a lot of negative connotations. Maybe it's just kind of like, oh, you take a bubble bath, you get your pedicure. These things are lovely, but what I'm talking about is you taking the time on a near daily basis to take care of yourself, to show yourself that you matter, that you're worth being taken care of, that your nervous system is worth taking care of and regulating. And self-care has so many different manifestations, but I'm going to talk about really in relationship to migraine, our sleep hygiene, our physical activity, stress relief. These are ones that really have research back to show to have a benefit for migraine. A lot of the self-care habits I'm describing are laid out in the Seeds for Migraine protocol developed by neurologist Dr. Amal Starling. So these have research back to show to have a very positive impact on migraine. The trouble is, it is really hard to get enough momentum with these habits to experience the benefits and also not to trigger more migraine attacks, especially when it comes to physical activity. So how do you prioritize which habits to start with, because it is too much to start with all of them and try to like rehaul your life. Migraine likes familiarity, it likes routine, so when you change too many things at one time, that can be counterproductive. So I want you to think of this as like, how can I increase my own capacity to take care of myself, to help me feel good, to prioritize me? And sometimes just doing that is a challenge, because we depending on how we've lived our lives, we often put everyone else or every other thing first on the agenda, and we come last. So it's this gradual transition to starting to put our needs, our body, our mind closer and closer to the head of the line, and it really can make an impact on our health. So some of the habits that we talked about, some of the most impactful ones that I've worked with my clients on are your sleep habits, physical activity, and working on stress and anxiety. And so when I asked people in the Yoga for Migraine Facebook group what were the hardest ones for them to stick to, physical activity was by far the most challenging. And so you to prioritize which one you need first. Usually we start people off with sleep, as that is really the foundation. And if your sleep habits are inconsistent, that's really the go-to place to start. But for some people, it's not so clear-cut, and physical activity can be a place where you can start to make tiny little adjustments and increase that. And we'll talk about how that looks in a moment. For others, it's actually learning to deal with stress and anxiety on a daily basis, and having a time to de-stress, to unwind, depending on our lives, our jobs, our upbringing. It's easy for many of us to get wound up and tense and anxious and preoccupied. Unfortunately, there's a lot going on in the world right now. And so taking care of ourselves, giving our nervous systems time to down-regulate on a daily basis is really critical. If you're not sure where to start, I recommend reaching out and booking a free Migraine Lifestyle Audit Call with me. They're quick calls, they're just 15 minutes, and I will walk you through, I'll ask you questions about these main habits like sleep, eating and drinking, stress relief, and I will help you pinpoint where to start. So I'm going to add that in the comments. It's totally free. It's not a sales call. It's just, here is some help to get you started. And for some people, it's very clear where to start. And other people, it might be a combination of things, or working on that anxiety piece. So we've talked about how to determine which self-care habits to prioritize first. Usually sleep, physical activity, stress and anxiety relief are the top ones. And we're really working towards creating this habit of nourishing ourselves, of getting comfortable, to make sure that we are worthy of being taken care of. And sometimes that mindset piece is a shift for folks. How do you make self-care habits so easy that you can't fail? There is lots of wonderful research out there on habit formation. Some of the top folks who've developed this include James Clear, but it's all about tiny micro habits. So what has helped me and many of my clients is first just understanding why you want to create this habit. When you have that understanding, that motivation, that can give you that energy to stick with it. So understanding the why, and then creating a baby tiny habit that is something that you could do on a high pain day. So if you want your new habit to be running for 20 minutes, likely that's not something that you can start on a high pain day. So perhaps if you haven't been walking, let's take physical activity as one of the habits that you want to increase. That's one of the more popular ones. If you haven't been doing any exercise, walking and yoga really are my top two suggestions for where to start. And it would be simply walking to the end of the block and coming back. That can be step one. And you might feel like, that's nothing, I gotta like go to the gym. Really, we starting much smaller than you think, but doing it consistently on the daily or near daily basis is what's going to propel you forward without triggering more symptoms. It's going to help you feel more successful, more confident. Like when you get started with a new habit, make it as easy and doable to just build the habit muscle. Especially when you're first starting, it's less about like what you're doing and more about creating the space in your daily life to do it. It's that momentum, that practice of creating the habit. That's what you're doing. The thing that you're actually doing, that's gonna come. The hardest part is just creating the habit. So really starting super tiny, like 1 minute. Let's say you want to start meditating. Let's say you want to do yoga. Really teeny tiny, and let's say it's 1 minute of meditation, and you're going to stay with that for like a week. You have your timer and you have your 1 minute of meditation for a week, and then the next week, once that seems like it's establishing, you've got some good rhythm with that, then you extend that. Maybe it's 2 minutes, and you grow it from this space that you've already created. What also helps when you are creating a new habit is to stack the habit on something that you're already doing, something that makes sense in your day, so that it's not just creating this habit out of a void and you're creating all this new momentum. You're going to stack it. For example, I'm going to do my breath practices after I brush my teeth. So most people brush their teeth. That's something that you're going to have a routine on, and it's going to be connected. So it's also a reminder trigger for your brain. Brush teeth, then I go do my breath practice. And then it becomes automatic. It becomes just this seamless flow of activities that you don't have to think about. That's a big part of habit formation, is that automaticity, so that you're thinking about it less and less, and it just becomes something your body looks forward to, your mind looks forward to. And sometimes it helps to also frame the new habit in a way that feels inviting. So for some people, habit, that might feel fine, new routine, but it can also feel really nice to frame it as a ritual. So my morning ritual is before I start work, is I chant, I do some breath practices, I do a couple yoga poses, and that sets and centers my day. And so that can help just make it more inviting to frame it like that, and make it more of a sacred time that is more meaningful, rather than just like something more superficial like a habit. So that's another little tip that can help. Finally, another way to really help these habits gain momentum is to do it in community. It is incredibly hard to start new things on your own without accountability, without people reminding you. And so that's really the beauty of my Beyond Migraine coaching program, is we're all doing this together. We are all practicing yoga daily. We're all adding breath practices and somatic tracking practices into our day. So it keeps it top of mind. It keeps that accountability. It's a community activity we're all doing together. Even as people finish the coaching portion of my 8-week intensive, we still have a whole year of yoga classes that people attend, because that community aspect is what is going to maintain you, is going to sustain you. It's so hard to do these things on your own. And so just know, when you're dealing with pain and migraine, it's really tough to do all this on your own, and having a supportive community can sustain your efforts so you don't peter out, because migraine is likely going to throw some wrenches into the works. And that's probably a good segue to talk about what to do when migraine messes things up. So to just recap here, we've talked about how to prioritize the self-care habits that will help prevent migraine. We've talked about how to make self-care habits so tiny, so linked to other activities, so doable that you can't fail, and that you keep that consistency and then you add to it. Now let's talk about what to do when you've got a string of migraine attacks and all this wonderful yoga practice, physical activity, meditation, your sleep. It just, even your eating and drinking, you're nauseous. What do you do when it all goes out the window? And this is where we have to have some self-compassion and flexibility. A few weeks ago, I had a rough menstrual migraine week, and that kind of blew out a lot of the physical activity routines I had developed. I rested more, I did more restorative yoga and yoga nidra. So when migraine throws a wrench in your plans, we need that flexibility to, yes, it's okay. We gotta sometimes let go of our routines, like treating it like a sick day. You're not gonna do all the same things when you feel sick and when you're recovering from being sick. And that when you are having migraine, more intense migraine symptoms, you can also change the intensity and the type of self-care that you do. It's like more important to me that you create the container, that daily space that for yourself, for self-care, and then what you do in that time and space and in that container can change depending on your symptoms and what you need. When I have less symptoms, I'm able to be more physically active, and when I have more symptoms, I rest more. And it's all self-care, and it's all me listening to what I need that day. And so, one, migraine means we're flexible. It also means that we need to celebrate and honor those cycles of starting over and over again. For many able-bodied people, especially who are getting into fitness, the trajectory always seems like you just keep adding more, and it gets harder and harder, and you max yourself out. And with people like us, with migraine, with other health conditions, there is an up and down cycle with our symptoms, and our self-care has to also have some cycles with where we are. That means there's going to be times where I got to start all over. Like when I had my menstrual migraine week, I just had to start over the next week with getting back to my gym classes, and I did okay. And to just know that's part of the process. It's not going to be a straight line, that there's going to be ups and downs, that you just know, you trust that cycle, that I'm going to be able to get back to my routines. I've done this before, I can do it again. It just gets that much easier to get back on the horse again when you feel like your self-care routines have dropped off due to migraine or just life being busy. So knowing it's okay, I'm starting over, you just celebrate that. You just get really good at starting over again. And know that each time you do, it's going to take less time to build that habit pattern again, that habit routine. You're going to get better at getting back to it, and that you can then increase your intensity of whatever you're doing for physical activity, for example. Let's see. I'll take a pause here to see if there's any questions. Is this resonating? What kind of self-care habits have you been trying to do and bring into your life that have been tricky? Does migraine get in the way? Whether it's your sleep gets off when you have more migraine attacks, knowing that you got to have some of that flexibility, and then you start over again with those tiny baby habits, adding up a little bit more each time, each week. I want to chat about how many self-care habits to add at a time. If our guiding principles with self-care habits and habit formation is keep it tiny and do it in a way where you're feeling safe and not overwhelmed, okay? That's a tough one with many of us. We want to get it all done. We want to get 100%. And so we want to do this all in a very graded, step by baby step way. With migraine, slow and steady wins the race. And so when you're adding new self-care habits, I'd say start with one thing and work towards being consistent with that one thing for like 2 weeks. And it doesn't have to be 100% consistency. It can be like 75 or 80% of the days, for example, that you do your new thing. And keep that consistency for a couple weeks. If you seem like you're doing well, you're consistent with it, whatever you're doing is not flaring any migraine attacks, then you can expand that habit. And this is very, very appropriate for like physical activity. So let's say you're starting a new yoga practice. What we have folks do is we start with like a 10-minute practice. We add it to something you're already doing. Let's say you do your yoga practice after you brush your teeth. We do 10 minutes. You keep that up for a week or two, and then you can add a little bit more. And over time, as you keep that consistency, your nervous system acclimates to the new habit. You're starting to feel the benefits of it. You're feeling more confident about doing it, that you're able to do something new. Then you can start to extend how long you do the activity and the intensity level. So keep it small, and once you've kind of got one habit down, then you can add something new. So I hope that makes sense. You don't need to add all the new things, your sleep hygiene, your eating and drinking, your yoga, and like overwhelm yourself. It's gonna backfire. You're probably gonna stress out and have migraine symptoms. So just take it slow. And slow is good for our nervous system. We wanna treat our nervous system well through all of this work. It is all this self-care is to help you regulate your nervous system. And when your nervous system is feeling resilient, your migraine symptoms go down. We will wrap up with some of just the mindset beliefs that can impact our capacity to do self-care and to create these new habits. And for many of my Beyond Migraine clients, it's very individual. Like, what are those sticking points that make self-care a challenge? For some people, they can feel guilty about, oh, this is not productive. This is like, I've got so many other things to do. For other people, it might be more like they're worried that doing physical activity might trigger an attack. They feel bad about themselves if like they didn't practice yoga every day and then they give up. everybody's kind of got a different nuance of beliefs about themselves that affect migraine. And that's why what I do in Beyond Migraine is so effective, because we can help you as an individual increase your capacity for self-care. So how to see some of the mindset patterns that can sabotage your efforts for self-care. What has helped me is just remember that it all counts. Whether I stand up and I roll my shoulders for a few seconds, this counts as movement. This counts as physical activity. And so having just a different standard that you might be used to, most of us with migraine are used to pushing ourselves really hard and having really high expectations for our capacities. It's changing your expectations and celebrating all those things that might seem inconsequential or insignificant. So whether that's you did a few neck stretches, or you took 3 breaths to center, if you were able to turn off your screens before bed, these tiny things add up. And to celebrate that and know that counts. Also, to frame this as, what you're actually doing to take care of yourself in the beginning is less important than you just developing this capacity to prioritize you, to make time for you. And so often self-care can feel like some other chore that's a drag, and like now you're stressed out more because you've got this to-do list of self-care you gotta do. That's counterproductive. It does take, for many of us, a little bit of adjustment, because doing things for ourselves can feel uncomfortable. We're not used to that for many people. Everything else seems more important. And so it's like we're exposing ourselves to just giving ourselves that rest time, whatever you need time to feel better, to feel less like amped up and stressed, and take it down a notch. So no, sometimes there's a transition there, and it's just like you're expanding your window of tolerance for just taking care of yourself. Some other tips that can help move you away from all or nothing thinking. A lot of us feel like either we gotta practice yoga for an hour a day, or you're not going to get any benefit and you don't do anything, is go for like that 75-80% consistency. Because when we shoot for 100% in everything we do, including self-care, we can create more rigidity, we can create more urgency and pressure and stress, and this is counterproductive. Self-care is here to help you feel safer, to help you feel nurtured, to know that your needs matter. But when we take it to an extreme of like, you have to do this and you have to do that, it loses some of that magic. And so it is a balance. We want to create that space. We want to have some structure for self-care, but we need to have some flexibility and compassion and not be rigid about it either. The last 2 things I'll leave you with is the idea of when you're having a higher pain day, or you feel like you're off with your routines, what can I do? It's really easy when we're in pain to get into a zone where we're like, I can't do this, I can't do that, and feeling really down. But empowering yourself by asking yourself, what can I do? Can I sit and breathe here? Can I listen to a guided yoga nidra meditation? And knowing that just by doing that, by asking yourself, what can I do? You're helping to shift out of kind of that downer mindset that's really easy to get into when we're in pain. And doing something for yourself is also empowering. So you feel like you have some tools, some capacity to affect your pain, to affect your mood. These all help you feel good. And when you're looking at, am I doing all this self-care right? Is it enough? Overall, think of it as there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be times where you get totally thrown off. There's going to be times when you feel like, yeah, I got it all set. And overall, do you feel like you're heading in the right direction? Do you feel like you're creating more time in your day to unwind, to take care of yourself, to listen to your body's needs? Or do you feel like you're going into the other direction of more pushing yourself, of burning yourself out? It's like, where are you going on the continuum? Whether you get 100% yoga, daily yoga practice or not, are you at least going in the right direction? And just knowing that and reminding yourself, yeah, like I am. I'm just doing 1 minute of meditation a day. I'm heading in the right direction. I'm heading in the right direction for self-care, for creating a deeper sense of safety within me, for giving myself tools to affect my mood and my health. And all of this can really make a difference in our migraine care. I truly believe that self-care is healthcare, especially when it comes to migraine. And there is no shaming or faulting if you find these things challenging to bring into your daily life. It is challenging, and that is really what I see my role as in kind of guiding people with migraine to create this space for themselves so that they can do more independently to manage their migraine without depending exclusively on doctors and medications. Those are huge assets as well. But there's a lot that we can do for ourselves. And if you have questions on how I help people do that in Beyond Migraine, feel free to send me a DM or comment below. It is my passion to help you create these self-care habits, and it's really exciting to work with people and see these things like gain momentum, and they're practicing yoga more, they're sleeping better, and their symptoms are decreasing. It creates this beautiful virtuous cycle, and I would love for you to experience it as well. So thank you, everybody. Reach out anytime. Take care.